Welcome to this week's episode of Jonathan on Money. This is episode number 132. So it's already November when this podcast will drop. So it's crunch time for year-end planning, account rebalancing, and various other projects that I'm personally working on. Sometimes when I sit down and try to relax and I think about how many things that need to get done before year end, I feel totally overwhelmed. But guess what? Being busy is a good thing. It sure beats being bored out of your mind with nothing to do. And that's a message I also try to impart on my retirees who I work with. As enticing as sitting on the beach sipping cocktails may seem, human beings crave purpose, work, and productivity. So the next time you feel like you want to do nothing, just remember that being busy with productive tasks is the true path to happiness. And please don't send me hate mail if you're listening to this on your commute and you hate your job. It's just my observation after being in this business for a couple decades. Before jumping into the program, I'd like to share that my upcoming fall webinars, my live webinars, will continue on October 30th, 8:30 a.m. And the next one's on state income taxation or trust, featuring Andrew S. Katzenberg, partner at Aaron Fox Schiff, based in New York City and Baltimore. And I'll be sure to include the registration information in the show notes to this episode. Okay, now for today's agenda. My talking points this week are going to discuss the Great Flood and managing risk. Our quote this week is from Mother Teresa on staying true to your values. I'll spend the last half of the episode answering listener questions, including Roth IRA conversions and retirement. And finally, we'll end with an actionable idea to implement your investing life, where we're going to discuss how to have an impact with your portfolio by bringing a unique focus to philanthropy. With that, let's jump into this week's talking points. So this past week, Jews around the world read Parshat Noach, a sedra chock full of lessons including moral responsibility, resilience, renewal, and the power of individual righteousness, even in a corrupt world. There's also a financial lesson about risk that is relevant to all from families and all families in general. The Mabul, or flood, was a once-in-a-history event, but should serve as a reminder that large and devastating catastrophes do occur. In modern times, these types of rare, unpredictable occurrences are known as black swan events. Statistically, they're referred to as tail risk, which means an extreme, unexpected loss due to events that lie far outside normal expectations. Even though the probability of the exact same type of black swan occurring again is unlikely, there are various types of these catastrophic events that have occurred in the financial markets over the past few decades. Some of these include an oil embargo in 1970's energy crisis. The sudden oil embargo imposed by OPEC in 1973 shocked the global economy, causing oil prices to quadruple and leading a global recession. The market sell-off began in October 1973 and its impact lasted well into 1974. During the time, the S&P 500 lost 48% of its value. Black Monday, on October 19th, 1987, the Dow Jones Industrial Average experienced its large single-day percentage decline in history, falling 22.6%. This crash was amplified by new computer-driven trading strategies and accelerated the selling. The Dow lost nearly 23% in a single day. Next, there was the dot-com bubble. The late 1990s saw a massive influx of investment into the tech sector. However, in the year 2000, speculation around the financial stability of all these new internet-based companies caused the bubble to burst and many internet companies to collapse, which wiped out trillions in market value. The Nasdaq, which primarily tracks technology companies, lost a staggering 80% of its value from its peak in March 2000 to its trough in October 2002. This is why when someone wants to concentrate all their assets in one index, I use this Nasdaq as was one of the examples of why that's ill-advised. There was the September 11th attacks. On 9/11, terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon triggered a halt to U.S. financial system, with markets closing for several days. It's hard to believe now, but they closed for several days. Upon reopening, the New York Stock Exchange and the Nasdaq saw a panic sell-off, and the markets lost over $1.4 trillion value within a week. The global financial crisis, that was the 2008-2009 financial crisis, was caused by the collapse of the U.S. housing market due to risky subprime mortgages. This caused a domino effect throughout the global financial system. It led to the failure of many respected financial institutions like Lehman Brothers. The S&P 500 lost nearly 57% from its October 2007 peak to its March 2009 low. The crisis wiped out more than $10 trillion in global stock value, and the real estate market took years to recover. And most recently, there was a COVID-19 pandemic. In 2020, the COVID pandemic triggered unprecedented economic shutdowns around the world, causing supply chain and demand shock that led to a rapid market sell-off. The S&P 500 fell over 30% from February to March 2020, one of the fastest declines into a bear market in history. So while these global events are classic examples of black swans, individuals can also experience personal versions that are equally rare and disruptive to their finances. Some examples of life altering events to an individual include health related disasters. A sudden major illness or injury, like critical diagnosis, a debilitating long term illness, or serious accident, can disrupt your financial life even if you have health insurance. Unexpected and extended medical bills can wipe out a person's savings or exhaust their time off, and disability insurance and long recovery period may lead to unemployment. Additionally, the need to become a full-time caregiver if a loved one becomes severely disabled or suffers from a progressive illness may cause someone to leave their job. A sudden and permanent reduction in household income plus new expenses related to care can create an extreme financial challenge. There's unexpected legal events. Falling victim to fraud or identity theft can rob someone of their savings and assets. This could be through a complex online scheme, a fake investment fund, or the manipulation of a vulnerable elderly family member by a dishonest individual. Another example is becoming the subject of litigation. An unforeseen lawsuit, even a frivolous one, can be financially devastating. Legal fees alone can quickly accumulate and dwarf the original financial stakes, leading to bankruptcy or liquidation of assets. Next is employment related shocks. A rare event could prevent someone from continuing to work in their field. For example, a sudden loss of eyesight for an artist or a rare hand trimmer for a surgeon can end their career, make their career obsolete. And it's not only health related. After all, the broad adoption of AI or artificial intelligence has made professionals in a variety of fields nervous about their career trajectory. Startups failures. For entrepreneurs, a personal black swan can present itself as their business struggles manifesting at the exact moment a larger economic downturn takes place. This can devalue their business, potentially put them out of business, and wipe out their net worth. And there's also natural disasters. Many listeners of this podcast are unfortunately familiar with the impact of natural disasters on their lives. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy uprooted many families, causing financial devastation due to the destruction of their homes, personal possessions, and the disruption of their business. Many homeowners were underinsured for this truly unpredictable event. And finally, there's also relational breakdowns. While divorce itself is not a black swan event, a catastrophic outcome that defies normal expectations could qualify for example, a hidden gambling addiction previously unknown to a spouse could reveal massive debt that fundamentally reorients the entire divorce settlement. Another example is the loss of primary income earner. The sudden death or disability of a spouse is a personal tragedy with severe financial repercussions. This is especially true if that person was the primary or sole breadwinner, and the surviving partner is left to care for the family with no savings and an insufficient insurance payout. In short, there are a lot of economic and personal risks to your finances. But I'd like to end with some solutions inspired by my travels through Kentucky. Several years ago, I was traveling through Kentucky on a family road trip. In addition to visiting the typical stops such as Mammoth Cave, a distillery, a stable of racehorses, and Abraham Lincoln's birthplace, we also went to Ark Encounter. Ark Encounter is a Christian theme amusement park, basically, that includes a replica of Noah's Ark, which supposedly was built to the exact specifications of the actual Teva. All I could think about while I was there was how massive this thing was. It also transported me back to the time of Noah, who very publicly went against the norms of that time. He spent 120 years building a structure the size of a cruise ship on his front lawn, while lecturing his neighbors to be better people. Noah then filled the boat with countless animals to prepare for a large flood that will wipe out the rest of the world. Think about Noah's gumption to go against societal norms and instead trust Hashem's word implicitly. Listeners can learn a lot from how to handle black swan events from the story of Noah. Noah prepared for more than a century, building the ark and storing food and animals on board. This is similar to folks buying proper insurance to mitigate all the aforementioned risks, diversifying their assets in case of unfavorable markets, and maintaining a meaningful cash cushion to minimize disruption to one's life. However, the truth is that some events are too seismic to plan for in advance. During these situations, we learn the ultimate lesson from Noah, which is, quote, that he walked with God, as it says in Genesis. Despite what was going on around him, Noah and his family listened to Hashem's direction and turned to him for guidance. Ultimately, the Mabul subsided. Hashem promised that something like that would not occur again, and the story of mankind continues. Unfortunately, life throws everyone seemingly insurmountable challenges. We learn from Noah that we must do our due diligence to properly prepare, but ultimately, we can only overcome these events, financial or otherwise, by turning to Hashem to guide us. Okay, those are the talking points this week. As a reminder, you can be notified of all my recent articles, webinars, and all the work I put out by subscribing to my free monthly newsletter at parkbridgewealth.com/newsletter. This week's quote is from Mother Teresa. For those who don't know, Mother Teresa was a Catholic nun and missionary who devoted her life to serving the poor and sick in Calcutta, India. She founded the Missionaries of Charity, won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979, and became a global symbol of compassion, humility, and selfless service. And she once said, and this is a bit long, but worth it, she said, "People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you do good, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you're successful, you'll win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend your years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, there may be jealousy. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you've got anyway. You see, and the final analysis is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. The essence of this quote is a powerful call to live with integrity, purpose, and compassion, regardless of how others respond. It urges people to stay true to their values, meaning to do good even if you're misunderstood, be honest even if it makes you vulnerable, build love, and strive even if others tear it down. This is a wonderful way to live your life. It's also a smart way to approach investing. The key is defining your investing values and sticking to them. People may doubt you, or criticize you, or laugh at you, or tempt you with more exciting ideas that have higher expected returns. However, if you live your life according to sensible investment values, the ones I discuss on this podcast, you'll be financially successful because at the end of the day, your money is about achieving your goals. It has nothing to do with what random and irrelevant third parties think you should be doing with your money. It's important to keep this in mind. There's always so much pressure to conform or follow others. Okay, now let's jump into this week's financial questions. If you do have a question, feel free to submit it to me and it may be answered in a future episode. Okay, first question. Why not increase taxes on the wealthiest Americans and invest in working class families to lower costs for ordinary Americans? Thank you for the question, Comrade Bernie. So the wealthiest 1% of Americans already pay approximately 40% of taxes. So it seems like this is already playing out in real life. The problem is the tax revenue goes to the government whose specialty is spending on nonsense. I guess the wealthiest can be charged a higher tax rate, but I'm not sure how that will help working class families. More money for the government to blow on nourishkeit seems counterproductive. The government is not a better steward of wealth than most of its citizens. Another problem is if the tax rates get too high, rich people will leave the country and move their companies overseas to more favorable tax jurisdictions. In other words, raising taxes is not a practical solution to helping poorer Americans. I believe creating more incentives for businesses and wealthy individuals to invest in the U.S. in order to create more and better jobs is the key. Ironically, this may involve lowering taxes. Money has a way of flowing to places that are more favorable. If the U.S. becomes an unfavorable place to be rich and do business, there will be less opportunities for the average American. Next question. My spouse and I share the same values about money. The challenge is that we both spend too much, have credit card debt, and are susceptible to keeping up with the Joneses. How do we adopt a more healthy financial values? So your values are to spend money that you don't have, live a life that you can't afford, and set yourself up for financial ruin in order to impress people who don't care about you. Got it. Here are some suggestions. 1, get rid of your credit cards and never use them again. 2, Move to a small community in the Midwest where the social pressures are less and life is more affordable. 3, spend some time volunteering at your local hospital and see real challenges that people are facing day to day. It may help put things in perspective. Good luck aligning your money with your values. Next question. I'm 70 years old and have $2 million in IRAs. Should I convert 200K a year to Roth IRAs? I was told that may be a smart decision. So who told you this? Your coworker who heard it from his broke brother-in-law? Please be careful where you get advice from. The answer is it depends on your goals and your finances. Allow me to elaborate. The benefit of converting pre-tax dollars into Roth IRAs is you won't have to pay taxes again on this money after the conversion. Your kids will also not have to pay taxes if they inherit these funds. It's pretty geschmack, right? Yeah, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. The downside is you need to pay ordinary income tax on these conversions, and the money can't come from an IRA account itself. If you're in a relatively high tax bracket, this may be a tremendous amount of money. I would pursue this strategy if one, you have the liquid cash that you don't need to pay the taxes, two, have a high income where the tax liability won't impact your life, three, have a long time horizon because these are funds you don't intend to use for a decade or preferably longer, and four, this is money earmarked for your kids to inherit and you don't need it to live your life. When those criteria are met, then you can consider doing conversions, which are nice but not necessary. Okay, the next question is, should I refinance my mortgage and use that infusion of capital to invest? No, and let's leave where rates are out today. Just as a general rule, that's a bad idea. You should focus on paying down your mortgage and not taking out more debt. The math nerds may want to work the math to see if it makes sense. This is the wrong approach. Investment returns are unpredictable. Paying down your mortgage is a guaranteed return. More importantly, the approach of taking out more debt when it's not necessary is generally imprudent. Focus on paying down your mortgage and investing any extra capital you have. Slow and steady wins the financial race. Don't get overly aggressive or you'll blow yourself up. Next question. Instead of taking out all my income, someone suggested that I have 30% go to my family foundation to save on taxes. Only stipulation is that I need to pay 5% out every year to charity. What are your thoughts on this strategy? So, you want your employer to pay your family foundation so you can avoid paying taxes. So, you'd like to commit tax evasion. I got it. So, the challenge with committing tax evasion is the method you described is getting your employer to direct your paychecks to another entity so you can avoid paying taxes. If you work at a legitimate business, this won't happen. If you work for Shmolik selling kasha varnishkas in Shellington, Brooklyn, then he might be amenable to this arrangement. However, it doesn't seem like the scheme is worth jail time. I'd sooner ask Shmolik to pay you in cash, which is a fairly acceptable method of tax evasion in the Frum community, but not endorsed or advocated by me. I imagine your rabbi will give you a heter for this type of law breaking. You may have to counterbalance this with a donation to a shul, which is a small price to pay. Setting up a foundation, paying fees to lawyers and accountants to set it up correctly, and all the rules, it's just not worth it. Getting paid in cash, set it up correctly, and all the it's getting paid in cash rather, and minimizing your chance of getting indicted, or following the rules, paying taxes, and not ending up in Otisville. Those are your choices, and I think you should take your time to choose wisely. Okay, that is it for financial questions this week. And by the way, if you have more involved personal finance situation, feel free to reach out directly to me via email, and perhaps my team and I can help you. The best way to get a hold of me is via email at jonathan@parkbridgewealth.com. And finally, I'd like to end with a timely and actual idea that listeners can implement to their own financial lives. And today's idea is going to continue on the theme we've been focusing on, which is how investors can have an impact with their money. And another way to do that is by focusing on philanthropic planning. As the wealth management industry continues to evolve and provide more holistic advice beyond just buying and selling stocks, sitting down with a client to draft a multi-generational investment policy statement that outlines a family's values which they want to pass to younger generations can be a crucial part of their financial strategy. And I found this type of planning comes up often with philanthropic pursuits. A family may experience a particular event that makes them want to align their money to support a particular cause. For example, if grandma had Alzheimer's, part of the family's investment policy statement may be to support organizations that do work in this area. This is actually a very direct way to align a client's dollars with their values, having a direct impact on certain organizations in this area and transmitting these values to the next generation of their family. Philanthropic planning is a creative way to express family values with one's money that can't be executed by purchasing a mass market ESG or SRI mutual fund. And with that, it's a wrap for this week's show. Any comments or questions, feel free to reach out directly to me via email. I love hearing from my listeners. And finally, the secret to financial success is no secret at all. It's to spend less than you make, invest the difference prudently, and ignore all the noise. See you next time on Jonathan on Money.